Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about a brand new, self-titled record from modern American avant-garde death metal titans and absolute champions, Artifical Brain. Look, y'all know me. Y'all know I have a soft spot for this kind of chaotic, angular, confused, avant-garde, and technical death metal. Y'all know that I love that chaotic, nonsensical wankery from bands like Portal, Gorguts, Imperial Triumphant, Ad Nauseam, Pyron, and of course it should not at all be a shock to hear that I love me some Artifical Brain as well. What may shock you is that I've been following Artifical Brain for a long time, pretty much in the entire time that I've been active on the internet as a critic, as a metalhead YouTuber figure, whatever the fuck you want to call me. I remember reviewing Butchering Cosmic Guards and Labyrinth Constellation on a Tumblr blog way back in the day when they were released respectively in 2013 and 2014. I reviewed Infrared Horizon here on the Metal Meltdown in 2017, back when I was much fatter and much stupider. I remember this because at the time I was in Philadelphia at the inaugural Decibel Beer and Metal Festival, and I actually recorded my review from my hotel room. And I also remember getting home very late on a Tuesday evening, and as I was showing up to my home, there was a Canada Post drop-off guy delivering that exact album on vinyl. Long story short, I love Artifical Brain, and I know him pretty well. And for those reasons, I was both really looking forward to this self-titled album, but also weirdly dreading it. Looking forward to it because, well, duh, I love him. But dreading it because, A, it's a self-titled record, and naming a record after your band comes with certain expectations that some bands can't always live up to. I mean, sometimes you get an anomaly like Metallica's self-titled album, what we commonly refer to now as the Black Album, but most of the time you end up with something pretty fucking lame like Lamb of God's self-titled album, or something just downright unnecessary like Suicide Silence's self-titled album. And B, because as it turns out, this would end up being the band's final studio album with Will Smith on lead vocals. As far as I know, there's no bad blood, no hard feelings between Mr. Smith and the rest of Artifical Brain, but, this knowledge is still pretty concerning, as he has played an integral role in the continued development and success of Artifical Brain. His lyrics have painted several bleak and nightmarish apocalyptic sci-fi dystopian landscapes and environments, and his incredibly low and brutal vocal register is matched only by a very small handful of other death metal musicians and singers. Thankfully, whatever fears I had going into this record were immediately doused and forgotten about the moment I began to really sink my teeth into this thing. It is a genuinely thrilling album, immaculately produced and performed. There is a level of surgical precision on display with every single element and factor that makes up this record. It is not, in my opinion, as brutal or immediate as Butchering Cosmic Gods or Labyrinth Constellation, nor is it as far out and experimental as Infrared Horizon. However, it is, I would say, a much more organic record. It very much feels like a refinement of everything the band have done over the course of the past decade, everything that they've learned kind of compiled into something hearty and nutritious. You've got Glitch Cannon, for instance, which is this shape-shifting, experimental death metal monster with extremely sharp, almost machine gun-style rhythm guitar riffery. There's a lot of over-the-top kind of percussive nonsense. There are some weird bass parts, some really deep, punishing guttural vocals. It's chaotic, it's frenzied, it never stays in one place for too long, but it also never really feels that overwhelming. It never goes to the levels of something like Obscura from Gorguts, where it just descends into absolute madness and wankery. Then you have Celestial Cyst, which slows things down with some more classic kind of groove-laden death metal vibes and beats. There are some weird, spacey, almost prog metal guitar tones and melodies and synth parts kind of layered over top of everything. It kind of feels like if a brutal death metal band wanted to make something in the vein of a Mastodon record. Following that, you have A Lofty Grave, which ups the momentum and the urgency and the brutality big time. It kind of feels like a hurricane of avant-garde death metal insanity. There are wailing, lurching grooves and soundscapes. There's a lot of intensity. There's a guitar solo right in the middle of this thing that is absolutely stunning. Once again, Artificial Brain flexing some prog metal influences here. One of my favorite tracks on the record would be Embalmed with Magma. It's a more cinematic moment on the record. It feels as if it was recorded in the center of the earth. It opens on some more monotonous, almost savage kind of percussion that's very cleverly spaced out a certain way to create as much tension as possible. Soon afterwards, some pretty atypical but effective death metal riffery is introduced. It's very dizzy, it's very gnarly and scuzzy, and then shortly after that you come face to face with what feels like a subterranean creature just unleashing absolute obliteration and hell upon you. I mean, this thing just explodes, man. There's no shortage of frenzied, chaotic, dizzying passages and riffs and weird melodies and angular patterns and just overall tech-death avant-garde insanity. Though a close second would be the album's powerful, but ultimately bittersweet closing track, Last Words of the Wobbling Sun. The track does start off in pretty standard Artificial Brain fashion with all the weird, noisy, crazy tidbits you've come to expect from this record, from this band. But at a certain point, there are some string arrangements and some horns introduced that add a level of simultaneous gravitas and unease. Like, it's very bold and dynamic, but it's also the closest I come to being genuinely uncomfortable on this record, in a way that a vast majority of the Infrared Horizon made me feel. It reminds me a lot, I would say specifically, of Vile Luxury era Imperial Triumphant. The track, and in turn the album, also officially ends on a very chilling note, you know? I mean, as the symphonic grandeur begins to die down, so too does the dizzying, convoluted, technical death metal wankery, and eventually you're left with this very cold, ominous, droning noise that just very gradually fades completely into silence. It's fitting that the song would be called Last Words of the Wobbling Sun because it does feel as if the sun has officially set on Artificial Brain, or more specifically on this era of Artificial Brain with Will Smith on vocals. I'm going to give this a very enthusiastic 4 out of 5. It works great as a culmination of everything the band have done up to this point. It's got the brutal aspects of Labyrinth Constellation. It's got some of the weirder aspects of Infrared Horizon. It's got a couple little twists and turns to keep you on the edge of your seat, to keep you guessing, to keep you on your toes. It's disappointing that Will has left the band, but at least he has left on a high note. I'm excited to see where Artificial Brain goes in the future. I'm excited to see what Will Smith continues to do with Buckshot Facelift and Afterbirth. I very foolishly did not pre-order this record. I'm very likely going to correct that shortly after this review goes online, because I just want to get lost in this record's world over and over. This is a record I can see myself replaying pretty often, and who knows, maybe for that reason I'll have to come back and raise the score a little bit. It all kind of depends. For now, I still feel comfortable once again saying that this is one of the best death metal records of the year, alongside other records from Venom Prison and Undeath. 4 to 5, holy shit, I think it's fucking great, man. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, in case you somehow are not already. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.